The year 2022 marked a turning point for Russia. It wasn't just the invasion of Ukraine that shook the nation, it was the mass exodus that followed. Hundreds of thousands of Russians fled, fearing for their freedom and future. They joined a global diaspora, united by loss and uncertainty. This wasn't just emigration, it was a political statement, a refusal to be complicit, a desperate search for a life beyond the Kremlin's reach. Many émigrés, highly educated professionals, found refuge abroad. They are rebuilding their lives, learning new languages and adapting. But a question lingers, will they ever return? For many the answer is no. Even if the war ends, Russia's landscape is altered. Fear of repression and distrust in the government persist. This essay explores why peace in Ukraine won't bring them back. It delves into fears, broken trust and personal stories. It also examines the economic impact and the government's response. For many Russian émigrés, the decision to flee was driven by a primal fear, the fear of being silenced, the fear of disappearing into the depths of the Russian penal system. This fear, deeply ingrained in the collective memory of a nation that has witnessed countless purges and crackdowns, transcends the conflict in Ukraine. It is a fear of the system itself. The Kremlin's relentless crackdown on dissent, which intensified in the wake of the invasion, has created an atmosphere of fear and paranoia. Independent media outlets have been shuttered, journalists and activists have been arrested, imprisoned, or forced into exile. The mere act of speaking out against the war, even in private conversations, has become a risky proposition. This climate of fear has led many émigrés to believe that even if peace were to be achieved in Ukraine, the underlying repression would remain. They argue that the war merely provided a pretext for the Kremlin to consolidate its power and silence any form of opposition. They fear that returning to Russia would be tantamount to walking into a lion's den. The statistics paint a bleak picture. According to a recent survey, a staggering majority of Russian émigrés believe that returning home would be unsafe even after the war ends. They cite the lack of independent judiciary, the pervasive corruption, and the government's track record of human rights abuses as reasons for their pessimism. Beyond the fear of repression, there is a deep sense of distrust among Russian émigrés towards the Kremlin. This distrust is rooted in a long history of broken promises and disregard for the rule of law. The invasion of Ukraine was the culmination of years of creeping authoritarianism. The Kremlin's narrative of protecting Russian interests is met with skepticism. Émigrés see it as a cynical attempt to justify an unprovoked war. They point to the Kremlin's history of disinformation and manipulation. Attempts to lure back professionals, especially in IT, have failed. Offers of tax breaks and housing subsidies are met with indifference. Émigrés argue that these incentives are meaningless in an unpredictable system. The distrust runs so deep that even a change in leadership fails to inspire hope. Many believe the system is rotten to the core, beyond cosmetic changes. To truly understand the plight of Russian émigrés, one must look beyond the statistics and listen to their personal stories. Stories of loss, fear, and resilience. Stories that paint a human face on the abstract concept of political exile. Take, for example, the story of Pavel Snop, a real estate agent who fled to Turkey in 2022 after publicly criticizing the war. Snop, who had built a comfortable life for himself in Russia, was forced to leave behind his family, his friends, and his livelihood. He now faces an uncertain future in a foreign land, haunted by the fear that he may never be able to return home. Then there is Oleg Chernusov, a former journalist who opened a bookstore in Istanbul after fleeing Russia. Chernusov, who had been arrested and harassed for his critical reporting, says that the decision to leave was agonizing but necessary. He believes that the erosion of freedom of speech in Russia has made it impossible for journalists to do their jobs without fear of reprisal. These stories, while unique in their details, share a common thread: the immense personal cost of dissent in Putin's Russia. They highlight the difficult choices that many Russians have been forced to make, weighing their love for their country against their desire for freedom and safety. Section 5. A Generation in Limbo. The Uncertain Fate of Young Émigrés. The exodus of Russians since 2022 has been particularly difficult for young people. Many had to abruptly leave their studies, their friends, and their families, facing an uncertain future in unfamiliar surroundings. This generation, raised on the promise of a more open and connected Russia, now finds itself caught between a homeland that seems increasingly hostile and a life abroad that is still taking shape. For students, the transition has been particularly jarring. Many had to put their education on hold, unsure if or when they can return to their universities. Those who have managed to continue their studies abroad face linguistic and cultural barriers, as well as the financial burden of living in often expensive foreign cities. The emotional toll on young émigrés is immense. They are grappling with a sense of displacement, loss, and uncertainty about the future. Many are struggling with guilt for leaving loved ones behind, while also feeling anger and resentment towards the regime that forced them into exile. The long-term impact of this trauma on this generation remains to be seen. Section 6. The Brain Drain: Economic Consequences of Exodus. The mass exodus of Russians is not just a human tragedy, it is also an economic disaster for the country. The loss of hundreds of thousands of skilled professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives has dealt a significant blow to the Russian economy, exacerbating pre-existing problems and hindering future growth. The IT sector in particular has been hit hard. Russia, once a rising star in the global tech industry, is now facing a severe shortage of software developers, engineers, and other tech specialists. Many of those who left were at the forefront of innovation, and their departure has left a void that will be difficult to fill. The exodus has also impacted other sectors including higher education, healthcare, and the arts. Universities are struggling to retain faculty and attract new students. Hospitals are facing shortages of doctors and nurses. And the cultural scene, once vibrant and diverse, has been depleted of many of its brightest talents. The long-term economic consequences of this brain drain are difficult to overstate. Russia is facing a demographic crisis with a shrinking workforce and an aging population. The exodus of young educated professionals will exacerbate these problems, hindering innovation, productivity, and economic growth for years to come. Section 7. A Deafening Silence: The Kremlin's Response to Émigrés. The Kremlin's response to the exodus of its citizens has been a mix of indifference, hostility, and clumsy attempts at persuasion. While some officials have downplayed the significance of the brain drain, others have resorted to threats and intimidation, accusing émigrés of treason and betrayal. Vyacheslav Volodin, the Speaker of the Duma, has been particularly vocal in his condemnation of those who left, calling them traitors and suggesting that they should be stripped of their citizenship. He has also proposed legislation that would target émigrés with financial penalties and restrictions. These threats, however, have done little to stem the flow of departures or persuade émigrés to return. If anything, they have reinforced the belief that the Kremlin is not interested in dialogue or reconciliation. The government's response has been widely condemned by human rights groups as a violation of basic freedoms and an attempt to silence dissent. Section 8. Finding Hope: Building New Lives Abroad. Despite the challenges they face, many Russian émigrés are determined to build new lives for themselves abroad. They are learning new languages, adapting to new cultures, and finding ways to rebuild their careers and communities. Their resilience and determination are a testament to the enduring human spirit in the face of adversity. In cities across the globe, from Berlin to Tbilisi to Buenos Aires, Russian émigré communities are emerging. These communities provide a vital support network, offering practical assistance, emotional support, and a sense of belonging to those who have been uprooted from their homeland. Many émigrés are finding ways to contribute to their new communities, using their skills and talents to make a difference. They are starting businesses, volunteering their time, and working to promote understanding and dialogue between cultures. Their stories are a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope and resilience can prevail. Section 9. A Long Road Ahead: The Uncertain Future of Russian Émigrés. The future for Russian émigrés remains uncertain. Even if peace were to come to Ukraine tomorrow, the political and social landscape of Russia has been irrevocably altered. The fear, the distrust, and the sense of disillusionment run deep. It will take more than a ceasefire to heal the wounds of the past few years and create an environment where émigrés feel safe and welcome to return. For many, the decision of whether or not to return to Russia will be a difficult one, fraught with emotional, logistical, and even existential considerations. They will have to weigh their longing for home against their fears for their safety and freedom. They will have to decide whether they believe that real change is possible in Russia, or whether they are better off building their futures elsewhere. The exodus of Russians is a tragedy for the individuals involved, and a loss for the country as a whole. It is a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict, repression, and broken trust. It is also a testament to the enduring human desire for freedom, dignity, and a better future. Only time will tell what the future holds for these émigrés and for Russia itself.